ETM Hotel, Brandy Sean. Welcome in peace. My name is Sean. I'd like to appreciate everybody for tuning in to Kofi Pie Research Team. Please like the show, share the show, tell a friend that we're actually live. I want to go ahead and say peace to everybody in the chat. I see you pure. You up early. Why the Massa got all Caucasian shoot? My ears are hurting because of the noise. Yeah. What's good? What's going on? Leave the pure to say something ignorant. But yeah, man, hit that like button, man. Like the show, share the show. You know what I mean? We finna get it in. Man. So before we get started, man, I hope everybody's just been paying attention to the goal. I'm throwing it out there like that because what's the end game? What is the goal? Why do we do what we do? Ultimately, when you think about your actions and how you maneuver on a day-to-day basis, what's your end game? What's your goal? What's your purpose? What are you doing it for? I say that to say that I think a lot of the noise has no benefit. Nah, no Charleston. Boy, crazy. But no benefits whatsoever. So what is the purpose? What is the end game? What is the ultimate goal? What do we set out to accomplish? Teddy said the goal is to teach the people the truth. How invested are you in making sure that the people actually get the truth? What is your investment? How much are you willing to invest? Sacrifice, right? How much do you have to give to make sure? And then that's just one part of it. The other part is, how do you even know what you kicking is the truth? How do you substantiate the information that allows you to come to the conclusion that you're on a truthful path? What tools are you utilizing to make sure that you get to from point A to point Z correctly? So what are we using? And to what are we using to actually substantiate the conclusion that we're kicking? So today's topic is about ignoring the noise. It was brought to my attention today that my name is in a conversation that I'm not even a part of and don't even know why it's even being had. If two people are having a dialogue, there's no reason to inject me into any discussion. So what I've come to do, what I've come to um, understand is it's best for me to ignore the noise. You're begging me to have a conversation with you about something that you don't study and or took the time to review the actual information and you want me to have a discussion with you. I think that doesn't serve a purpose, because if we're trying to hash out any differences or come to some type of an agreement, then both sides have to review the same entailed work in order to have that conversation, for it to flow properly and make sure that things transpire accordingly. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I might sound choppy for a second, and then I might not, and it's because my modem just reset, and I'm actually on my cell phone, so I'm in a few from one thing to another. So Chavis answers my question and says research methodology. But how do you know, Chavis, that you're on the right track based on the words research and methodology if you haven't been taught? How many people went to school and they taught you proper research methodology? Not universities, I'm talking grade school, K through 12. And also, how do we know that because we're using proper research methodology, that other people are actually using proper research methodology to come to their conclusion? How do we know that? You see what I'm saying? Like when we start to really focus in on the information, or we start asking questions, the right questions, I should say, and not interrogating one another, we then understand that there's a detriment to the noise. One way to attack the noise is to do what Jawu's been doing, and that is to basically um, attack the noise by flooding the streams with the repetitive notion of drilling home points and including new points. It's one way. The other way is to get your stuff together, compact and compartmentalize that stuff, when that stuff that I'm referring to as your homework, which is the assignment that you need to properly understand. And then when you have command of the subject matter, then you can progress it forward. Teddy said we should scrub the information that's being taught to us. Hotel Sini, Jehudi, Ma'at. I agree with that. But think about what I'm saying when I ask you this. How do you know if you're scrubbing the information that's being taught to you correctly? How do you know? Like, when do you reach that point of knowing? Is it because you're reading the same biased material over and over that's helping you formulate your conclusion? So therefore, when you review something and you're looking for the things that your biases had supported this entire time, that's how you think you reached the truth? Or is it reading the pros and cons, the fors and against? It is doing the due diligence to have the homework to go against uh uh one another and compare and contrast and hashing out that which you're scrubbing to help you come to an honest conclusion? Or are you concluding based on the premise of someone else's conclusion, which would mean appealing to authority? That boy said, "Ignore the nose candy scholarship." Yeah. Jehudi must be driving and talking, boy. He 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 got some typos. But we rocking with you, Cindy. Yeah, man. Anusia says, yes, need both sides to make a conclusion, but what do you mean you need both sides to make a conclusion? But where's the but at? See, this is the thing. So let me just randomly say something about that in my from my POV point of view here. All right. So let's take a subject matter like slavery. All right, because if I choose anything else, people are going to assume that I am aiming it in the direction of a place that I'm not. So let's take slavery for instance. All right, I spent 3 or 4 years, 4 years, maybe a little bit longer because I've been reading other material regarding that same subject matter. But I've been reading and studying and critiquing work regarding the slavery on the continent to the New World for quite some time. We can go all the way back to like 2016 or something like that, just really getting intense with it, and it just developed and grew. And then along the way, I got some helpful resources from, you know what I mean, from Danny, true story. Um, he put me on this whole Portuguese kick. And then I had some that helped inspire me to look at different parts of the Portuguese involvement, the Spanish involvement, because those two pretty much, those two European countries pretty much was, you know, doing that thizzle at the time. But to understand the inside uh, plots, ploys, and demises, and then the outside distractions that helped bring those things forward. What I'm saying is I read everything about the pros and cons of the transatlantic slave trade, all the way down to insurance documents and slave ship manifests, all the way down to kings' involvements and middlemen, all the way down to understanding the cultural differences and the traditional beliefs of these different tribes and their markings to identify and to know who they're dealing with. The tribalism aspect of Africa, yes, and the Dutch. I'm sorry. Yeah. I just didn't want to start naming everybody. I just went with the two, but the Dutch would come behind those. But the point of what I'm making here is that some of us, right, who are having these conversations, who are entrenched in certain discussions, and that who are properly trying to edify their people to help get to the truth, have read both sides. If you mean by we need both sides as far as opinions, then I would counter that to say if this is an opinion conversation, that's a conversation that's not going to help anyone because it's two people sharing different opinions. So, what written material that the counter person has read on the subject matter matters. Am I kind of like making sense, Nunu, as far as you know, what you initially had stated? Does it make any sense? Or if you have any, you know, a different position than that. Because ultimately what I'm saying is in order for us to properly get into this work, we already know that we have to read the fors and the against. So let me take you to a point of the coming of Islam in the land of the blacks, right? We all know the book is coming soon. I'm not trying to hype it up. I'm not trying to plug it in, but I'm using it as the perfect example for me personally. Before I read any Arabic text, I already had made up my mind that I just hated Islam. I hated Arabs. Um, I had already came to a faulty conclusion without investigating any further. But through growing and development and understanding proper research methodology, I had to check myself and leave my biases at the door. So I had to go on a journey and spend a few years reading about the Arabs and trying to get to know who these Arabs were and why they were so sophisticated by the time they arrived on the continent of Africa. I say sophistication because they were not like the people that we have come to learn about, know, and study and see throughout history. And when I say people, I'm referring to the people we descend from, the people we don't descend from, all over the continent of Africa. So I checked myself because if I didn't, you would have read my biases and my work immediately. And then my work would have just really been useless because there's no way that I would have been able to actually conclude correctly without understanding the entire subject matter. I'm not shading or shaming or anything like that. I'm just actually just trying to keep it a buck on how we get to where we are. So once I did that work, right? And I'm not saying I read every single text. I read a majority of the text that was being referred to by other people. And when I say referred to by other people, I'm talking about the sources that I was reading was sourcing other source material. So I just kept digging in their sources to obtain better information that I knew that I needed in order to have this conversation. And I knew when history has been written, it was written from the perspective of the Arab. I had the continental African perspective. I had the African American perspective. I needed the Arab perspective and European perspective. So I saw out to get the top European sources and Arab sources regarding the subject matter. That helped in my development in writing this particular text. So when I conclude on the premise of knowing both sides of the story, not using a bias. So if I may say, when we're having conversations, if that's what people want to call them, or debates, or whatever it may be, is the person that I'm having this conversation with for or against? Why are they against? And what sourced information, since you're going to point me in the direction of the expert, are you reading? Because I'm telling you what I'm reading. I'm providing you with the information that I'm reading. I'm not hiding anything. If I'm lecturing about something, I'm building on something on any channel that I'm on, I'm actually having that information live and in real time. I'm going to put it on the screen. I'm going to show you the source. I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to go back. I'm going to walk you through it again in case you may have missed something. And then I'm going to elaborate on something. I'm not going to hide my hand, nor am I going to say, man, ain't no way, bruh. Hell no, they couldn't have done that. These people are responsible for that. How could you see that? Like, I have to properly understand, 1, what is a claim? 2, how to argue for or against the claim. 3, right? The source material, not in any particular order, because you really want to know all the material first before you get into an engaging conversation, and then you in order to build. So what I am saying is, in order to ignore the noise, we got to do a better job at knowing the subject matter, staying away from the noise, and building on the fundamental principles of proper research methodology to advance scholarship, which is a body of knowledge to help us get to that solid conclusion. So when people be like, I want to hear what the other person has to say, right? Okay, you can hear what they have to say. But if what if they're saying is merely based on feelings, emotions, and not proper research methodology and sources that have been critiqued and scrutinized and that can stand attested? Are they saying I'm reading something from academia and then it ain't really from academia? Are they saying they're reading from a journal, but it's really a open access journal that people pay to publish in? You understand? I hope I'm trying to what I'm trying to do here is, I'm not trying to be dismissive of how people feel about certain things, because everybody feel a particular way about what they expect or how things should actually be. And that's cool. That's you, that's your personal preference, right? Because at the end of the day, it all comes back down to the knowledge. I don't need to hear you telling me what's what. I need you to show me. So go show me, right? Where this where your position is coming from. Right. History don't fuck with hysterics. That's what I'm trying to get at. He said we got crackheads trying to correct scholars. I'm done. And it ain't even just that. You know what I mean? It ain't even just that. That's one thing. So I just ignore the noise. There's no real learning lesson out of any of the noise. Think about it. How does scholarship work? I'm not talking about scholarship to get education. We all know that if doing proper research methodology and knowing how to scrutinize things and how to qualify work and so on and so forth was easy, everybody would be doing it. We know that. This we know, but we know that people don't do that. So what we have is a serious case of, let me look up something on the spot. So if I said something like, understanding the star system, and you go, star system. You hear me typing, right? I hope y'all hear me typing, because I'm trying to get to a point here. And then you go zero dark 30 for like a couple of minutes, and you go, a star system, a stellar system is a small number of stars bound by gravitational attraction. And then you come back and you say, this is an example. So you're saying that these people understood what a star system was? And then I say, based on their claim, they had an understanding of what a star system was. And y'all in the chat don't understand what a star system is, then you go crazy. Now you think you've one up somebody. When you just went to Wiki real quick to get a basic understanding of what a star system is. A star system or stellar system is a small number of stars that orbit each other bound by gravitational attraction. A large group of stars bound by gravitation is generally called a star cluster or galaxy, although broadly speaking, they are also a star system. Then you can continue to read further if you want to, or you can go through all of that, right? You can do all of this. Means nothing to me. Doesn't change what I said. So, then you can go here. You can look up what a star is. You can scroll on down and get a little bit more information. You can go through the observation history. Stars have been important to civilizations throughout the world. They have been a part of religious practices and celestial navigation orientation to mark the passage of seasons and to define calendars. You can go further and keep on going down and keep on going down and keep on going down. It doesn't matter to me. You can advance the conversation further than that. What I'm trying to tell you is that you don't know what a star system is. Don't go look it up and then try to have a conversation about it because I'm not the person that you want to work out your pseudoisms with on the live stream. If you don't properly understand what a claim is, don't sit here and insinuate that I believe that these people these people knew this or knew that. I don't have to answer your question because I'm reading material that you're not reading. And it's unfair to you because you're not reading the material. So when someone has a conversation with you or an argument back and forth for 2 hours, like Chavis does often, uh, and then gives you the information, guess what you got to do? Let me check out this source. Let me see what this source is saying right here and see if they're clearing up things or they're properly identifying a what claim or claims. Because a lot of conversations are baseless if people really understood what was actually being claimed from the gate. So 20 seconds before I said anything about a star system, you didn't know what a star system was. How is that going to help advance? I need somebody to tell me right now, in the example that I just used, how is that going to help people come to an honest conclusion about something if one person knew the claim of the people that made the claim and another person did not? You know I got that video, bro. You know I got that video because I dumped it all in the chat. So I'm gonna do you a favor. I'm gonna play the video. Hold on 1 second, y'all. That's that. I'm on the different profile. So let me put the disclaimer up. And let me just do this basic thing right here.
In this lesson, we will learn about how to identify the author's claim in an argumentative text. Authors of argumentative texts write to share their arguments or beliefs with their readers. They take a position or have an opinion on the topic they're writing about. Claims are often statements that the author will try to prove are true throughout the text. The claim will come at the beginning of the text. It will solve a problem or answer a question, and it will include facts and evidence to prove the claim is true. Let's look at an example. The best way to keep your cat from destroying furniture with her claws is to have a scratch post. After we bought a scratch post, Fluffy sharpened her claws on it instead of the couch. The author's claim is that she knows the best way to keep her cat from scratching the furniture, and that's to buy a post. To prove this, she uses the evidence of her own cat, Fluffy, using the post to sharpen her claws instead of the couch. Here's another example. Cats have the most interesting eyes of all the animals. Cats' pupils are vertical slits instead of circles, like most animals' pupils. The author's claim is that cats have the most interesting eyes. Her evidence to support that is that cats' pupils are vertical instead of circles. As you read an argumentative text, it's important to be able to identify the claim so that you know what the author is trying to prove to you, and you can distinguish between the facts and the opinion that the author is sharing with you.
So I want to make that very clear that if you haven't read the written work on the subject matter and you're projecting to understand what one is claiming, you have been very fallacious in your intent to project what you assume to be a claim on a people. Again, you're not properly identifying a claim. That's at a basic level, ladies and gentlemen. That's for kids. We're grown people caught up in conversations, and people don't even know how to identify a claim. Now, I don't want to go into the chat and grab those other videos, Chavis. I know you want me to play the other videos. I really don't want to do that. I do want to drive the point home that this is introduction to reading skills, claims, and supportive evidence. Reading skills.
Today's first case was filed by the junior varsity cheerleaders against Owen Scott, the editor of the school newspaper. Who is speaking for the cheerleaders?
I am, Your Honor. We filed this complaint because of the terrible article in this week's paper that headlined, "Why We Don't Run Stories About Cheerleading on the Sports Page." We think cheerleading is a sport and that the paper should write a correction. Yeah! Woo! Yeah! Woo!
Mr. Scott, what do you have to say about this?
The article is not about whether cheerleading is a sport. It only explains why we don't run stories about it on the sports page.
Let's take a look. Here's why we don't run articles about cheerleading on the sports page. 1. There are no final scores to report for cheerleading. 2. There are no conference standings for cheerleading. Are those facts?
Facts?
Yes, a fact is something that can be proven to be true.
Then those are facts.
Let's continue. The stories that appear on the sports page should include scores and standings. Is that a fact?
It is, Your Honor.
It is not a fact. It is the opinion of the editor that the stories on the sports page should have scores and standings, but that is only his opinion.
Agreed. That is opinion. It can't be proven true like a fact. Finally, it says here, last summer, a judge ruled that college cheerleading cannot be considered a sport. The part about the judge's ruling is indeed a fact. But the part where you say, it is unlikely cheerleading will ever be recognized, can't that be proven true?
I guess not, but
It seems like you made a reasoned judgment here.
That's right. He drew his own conclusion based on the fact, but another person might not make the same reasoned judgment.
I rule for the cheerleaders.
We won! We won!
do I have to write a retraction?
No. What you write in your paper is your business.
What? What does he have to do then?
Owen, I sentence you to perform with the junior varsity cheerleaders at the next basketball game.
Perform?
Yes, as in cheerlead. With the cheerleaders. I hope you're in good shape. I understand this is one tough sport. Or not a sport. Or whatever it is.
Cheerleader! 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 Cheer!
So that's the basic introduction to reading skills. It's claims and supported, right? So when I'm trying to help people identify what an actual claim is, people seem to take issue with that. And I'm trying to figure out why, when I know that your error is in understanding the claim. So you want to project your position on something without even properly understanding or edifying that actual claim. Why is that? Because you trying to play the game. Oh, history. So let me go back. I'm doing this for Chavis, by the way. It's all the stuff I watch. You might see yourselves in there. And yep, I like paint. I used to paint. I don't think I got it in this history. Oh, yeah, I do. My bad.
Hi, AP Seminar students, Mr. Muller here, and in today's video, which is very important by the way, we're going to be talking about the basic structure of what argument is. What are claims, reasons, or subclaims, depending on which book you're reading, and evidence. These are the basic components of how you write and present argument. We're going to be covering what those are today, and how you can break down line of reasoning in either a video, podcast, or any sort of print media. Hope you're excited. I'm excited. Let's get started. Now, the first thing I need to let you know is what argument is, because this is all about not only what you're going to be doing in this course, but what you're going to be doing at a university level or any sort of academic setting. You're writing an argument. Basically, you are trying to convince readers or viewers, if it's a presentation, to believe or accept your conclusions about a topic. You're not just stating accepted fact, the sky is blue. That's not argument. Argument is trying to convince viewers or readers of your position on a topic using credible evidence. It's not just persuasion where you're just trying to create some sort of nice flowery language for me to believe you. You need specific, credible evidence to support the argument that you're trying to make. Now, the reason why we focus on argument in AP Seminar is this is what you're supposed to do at the next level at university and in the academic world. When I'm doing my grad course, I have to write argumentative essays using credible evidence to support the claims that I'm making. Not only do I have to try to convince my audience of what I believe, but I also have to attack other perspectives, because arguments are never easily accepted. There are always multiple perspectives on that topic. Now, the example I'm going to be using in this video are that drone strikes should be made illegal in the international community. Now, that could be what I'm trying to argue and get you to believe, but there are plenty of different perspectives saying that drone strikes are good. So I have to attack those perspectives as well as convince you of mine. Now, first thing I'm going to do is give you some basic definitions. These are the cornerstones of arguments. The first thing is a claim. A claim is just a statement about an issue that asserts a perspective. You've done claims for a long, long time. You just called them thesis statements. But when you write argument, we call them claims. Claims are the entire center structure of your essay or presentation. Everything that you say needs to be directly connected to that claim. And it needs to come from a research question, which we'll talk about in a different video. Now, let's say my claim is drone strikes should be made illegal in the international community. By the way, in lesson 3, all those perspective statements I made, those were claims. Now, just because I think drone strikes should be made illegal, I have to be more detailed than that. I have to give a whole lot more because statements to really convince you. Those become subclaims or reasons. Those are the because statements that support your claim, that go a little bit deeper than that claim. So, for instance, a subclaim for drone strikes could be that due to the blurring of lines between warfare and the disassociation of the devastation of war through drone strikes, drones should be made illegal in the international community. Now, the point is, I need to get you to believe that. So what I need is evidence. I need data, I need statistics, I need quotes from experts. I need hard evidence to convince you that what I am saying is believable. Because if you don't give credible evidence, that means don't go to a blog, don't go to Wiki Answers, you go to professional journal articles. You go to things that cannot be attacked due to its credibility. And even if you use a piece of evidence that has some questions about credibility, for instance, I might be citing something about drone strikes from an article in 1950. Well, that's a long time ago. Why are you including that evidence? It doesn't seem credible. I have to substantiate why that evidence is credible in terms of the argument that I'm trying to make. The last definition I want to talk about is counterclaims, the alternate perspectives of that topic. I'm not going to be giving a good argument if all I do is tell you what I think based on the evidence that I found. If I don't attack...
I need to run that back for the people in the rear who don't understand what he just said. And then I want you to put some of these conversations into its proper perspective.
The alternate perspectives of that topic. I'm not going to be giving a good argument if all I do is tell you what I think based on the evidence that I found. If I don't attack the alternate perspectives, I'm not really making a credible argument. It doesn't seem...
One more time for the people in the back. So when people are asking you questions, do you think aliens exist? Do you think this? What's your take on that? That's not how to have that discussion. That is an interrogation. It's full of fallacious intent, and it never allows you, the questionnaire, to provide evidence for why that is incorrect. Only your feelings.
About drone strikes from an article in 1950. Well, that's a long time ago. Why are you including that evidence? It doesn't seem credible. I have to substantiate that evidence is credible in terms of the argument that I'm trying to make. The last definition I want to talk about is counterclaims, the alternate perspectives of that topic. I'm not going to be giving a good argument if all I do is tell you what I think based on the evidence that I found. If I don't attack the alternate perspectives, I'm not really making a credible argument. So I could say that in terms of, let's say, the subclaim of drone strikes blurring the lines of war, I could say that opponents of this or supporters of drone strikes will note that keeping soldiers out of harm's way not only increases the morale of the country that uses drones, but also saves lives. However, and then I throw in evidence to say that even though that perspective exists, my argument is superior and you should believe me. Now, there's a basic structure that you use for arguments. Now, one thing I want to note is subclaims can have subclaims. Yeah, I know it gets a little confusing, but just think about if you're breaking down your claim into your because statements or your subclaims, you might have to break those subclaims down even more. You have to do what you have to do to make sure that your readers can fully accept the argument that you're making. Now, the basic structure, which we'll talk about all of these evidence a little bit more in further videos, first thing you have to do is contextualize your issue in your introduction. Make sure we have common ground between you as the writer and me as the reader, that we completely understand and have the foundation of basic knowledge about that topic to really understand the argument. We talk about that in a further video. Then you're going to create.
Whoa. He just said that he is the writer and us as the reader. It has to be made clear that we understand the basics of the claim. Did he not just say that? So if you don't even understand the basics of the claim, why are you having so many questions? What seems to be the issue? This is why I ignore the noise. I don't care how many people watching, how many people tune in, how many total views the video gets because of confusion. It's about teaching moments.
In further videos. First thing you have to do is contextualize your issue in your introduction. Make sure we have common ground between you as the writer and me as the reader, that we completely understand and have the foundation of basic knowledge about that topic to really understand the argument. We talk about that in a further video. Then you're going to create a research question. What was it you're trying to answer as you did research to craft your claim? Those are incredibly important to the research process, and we have a video on that a little bit later. Then you end your introduction with your main claim. Your body paragraphs are typically organized in your subclaims, and you use evidence to support those subclaims. Typically, at the end of an argumentative piece, you either have a solution or a conclusion section, depending on the evidence that you have and depending on what you're writing about. I could create a solution section to drone strikes saying that there is a particular law that's in place to try and outlaw it, and we should support it, and I need to cite particular evidence saying why that solution is viable. I could come to a conclusion saying, despite all the evidence that's saying that drone strikes are ineffective, we still have to compete with changing technology, and we have to make sure that the ethics of warfare are still maintained so that we can create peace in the world. And I have to tie that to evidence. I can't just say, here's what we should do. Well, who am I? I'm not an expert in this particular topic. You have to tie your solutions and conclusions to evidence. And yes, we have a video about that as well. Now, writers are expected to do a lot of things in arguments, and we've covered a lot of these issues already in this video. I just want to focus on number 5 and number 8. Two things you must do in argumentative pieces, whether you're presenting or writing, is you have to analyze evidence and you have to synthesize evidence. Analysis basically says, what does your evidence mean? If all you do is throw in a quote or throw in some data and don't tell me why that is significant to the subclaim you're trying to make, then you're not creating a credible argument. You have to tell me, why is that evidence credible? What does that evidence mean in trying to convince me of your claim or subclaim? And synthesis is incredibly important. It's actually one of the hardest things to really get in an argument. It's the idea of connecting pieces of evidence together or connecting evidence to your subclaim. Synthesis just means connecting. You wouldn't, if you don't synthesize information, if you don't make bridges between pieces of evidence, or you don't explicitly state how evidence stacks together to support your subclaim, then it's like trying to put together a puzzle without actually connecting the different pieces, or trying to make a quilt without actually sewing the different pieces of that quilt together. It's going to be disjointed. It's going to be hard to follow, and it's not going to convince me of the argument that you're making. Remember, you are always writing to readers. We are not writing for yourself. When you're writing, you have to make sure that you're credible. A lot of that takes place with the evidence that you're using, making sure the evidence you use is credible, and yes, we talk about that in a later video. You also have to write well. The flow of your evidence and your claims and subclaims all have to be connected, because ultimately, you're not writing for yourself, you're writing for me. Now, the claims, reasons, and evidence are something called a line of reasoning. And one thing that AP wants you to be able to do is to break that line of reasoning down. So if they give you a video, a podcast, newspaper article, a journal article, they should note, can you break down where the claims, the subclaims, and the evidence used in that source? So let's practice that. I've got a video here. It's a TED Talk from David Epstein called "Are Athletes Really Getting Better, Getting Faster, Better, and Stronger?" I'd like you to watch this video, and you can just look for it on YouTube. And I want you to just watch the first 4 minutes, just the first 4 minutes, not the entire thing. And I want you to identify, for this person's argument, what is their main claim? What is the evidence they use to support that claim? Pause this video, watch the first 4 minutes of the TED Talk, and then come back. Okay, so what was the main claim? What was the evidence that David Epstein uses? The main claim he makes that athletes aren't necessarily getting better, faster, and stronger, but the technology and training that we're using has allowed humans to break world records in different sports. Now, what evidence does he use? Let's talk about Usain Bolt and Jesse Owens. He says, if you just look at the times for the 100-meter dash of Jesse Owens and Usain Bolt, the times are quite large, the difference. But if you actually take the tracks, and if Jesse Owens would run on the same track as Usain Bolt and explode from the same blocks as Usain Bolt, the times would be much closer. So the only reason that Usain Bolt is breaking these records and having a much faster time than someone about 60 years ago is because of the technology that we're using. Now, you can do that for a newspaper article. You can do that for a podcast. You can do that for pretty much anything. And the reason why you need to be able to do that is you can't write your own arguments unless you can break down the arguments of others. Hope you learned something you did not know before. Thanks for watching.
I mean, man, like, it's it's crazy, but it goes back to the point of why I have to ignore the noise, because people aren't fully aware of how this thing really goes down. So when we're having these quote unquote conversations, discussions, or slick debates or arguments, right? And people are antagonizing information. What did they provide to you that would actually let you know that they actually have a command for the subject matter and have pointed you in the correct direction to come to an honest conclusion on that subject matter? What information exists? Give me a second. I want to read something to you. I want to read a comment to you, and I want y'all to tell me if this sounds like a conclusion. I mean, does it sound like what I just basically said? If I ask you if you believe the claim about the Dogon knowing about Sirius B before telescopes, what would your answer be? That's a question that is asked to someone that wants an answer to something, right? So, is it the Dogon? Where's the information that says that the Dogon knew about Sirius B before a telescope? Or I asked Sean directly if he believed the claims about the Dogon. What are those claims? And he refused to answer, so it is what it is. What are those claims? So let me go back. I'm going to find you what this person believed the Dogon's claims are. That they saw Sirius B and they knew about Sirius B pretty much. Here you go, because here's the comment. If that nigga, me, Sean, want to believe the Dogon knew about or saw Sirius B, or that they knew about the Big Bang, or that they knew about quantum physics, then I'll go right ahead. Then go right ahead. I don't care. I'm going to say that one more time for people who don't understand what I just said. Bruh, if that nigga want to believe the Dogon knew about or saw Sirius B, or that they knew about the Big Bang, or that they knew quantum physics, then y'all go right ahead. I don't care. So find me the video where Sean says that the Dogon knew about the Big Bang, saw Sirius B, or believed the Dogon knew about or saw Sirius B, or that they knew about the Big Bang, or they knew quantum physics. Go show me nah, this ain't Unc. This ain't Unc, Jehudi. Me and Unc I ain't going back and forth with Unc. But show me where Sean made that claim. You see what I'm saying? So there's two problems here. One, you're projecting on Sean. That's a problem. And it's kind of personal for you that you would do that. I'm just not naming this person. This person know who they are. Two, you don't even understand what the Dogon claims are. So the first thing is this. When the hell did you identify what the Dogon said they knew or did not know? Where is that understanding? People are letting y'all get away with this highway robbery bullshit, and this is why I ignore the noise, is because you're projecting on Sean. Nah, it ain't Chef. You're projecting on Sean that I believe that the Dogon knew this, knew that, knew this, knew that. You said that, but you don't have evidence to say what Sean knows. I ain't going with belief. What is it that Sean knows, or what is it that Sean doesn't know? You haven't properly identified that, because you just assume those things, and and the whole problem is you never identified what the Dogon claims are. Yeah, I ain't paying attention to the Cradle stuff either. That's just bananas. My problem is that you have a person. What could be people? But in this instance, it's a person. And everybody can see this. It's public. You can see this entire conversation is public. Why would you say this? Bruh, if that nigga want to believe the Dogon knew about or saw Sirius B, or that they knew about the Big Bang, or that they knew quantum physics, then y'all go right ahead. Nah, it ain't him either. But it could be. It could be the feelings of all of them. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm not going there. It's not my thing. My thing is you haven't properly identified the claims of the Dogon. And then you projected that if that nigga, me, Sean, believe the Dogon knew about or saw Sirius B, or that they knew about the Big Bang, or that they knew quantum physics, then you go right ahead. See, you don't even know what Sean knows or don't know. Oh, I know you got my back. This conversation is live in the Pseudo Killers Facebook group. There. It's a conversation once again between Kent and Chavis, who I ain't even talking to, dude, or bring him up or say anything, because in this same exchange, he says the only way that Sean gets views is when he mentions the Pseudo Killers. But if I go show you my history of views, I got the most views off a video, 3.3 thousand views off a video that I did about the Queen of Madagascar. I did not. The most views I've ever gotten had nothing to do with nobody named P or K. None of them. And this is the problem. So now it's about attention and how many views someone gets. No, the truth is, how the hell do you identify the claim? Do you know the claim? Sean has been, and I hate to speak about myself in third person, but I've been asking this question for quite some time. Do you actually understand the claim of those people? And you still don't. You know why you don't? Because you just exposed yourself again in a Facebook conversation talking to me to another dude, because I got a message from you on Facebook. I just ain't even opened it to read it because I don't even care to have it exchanged. I'm ignoring the noise. I'm showing y'all, and I'm trying to make myself clear here on why I'm ignoring the noise. I'm ignoring it because they don't even understand what the Dogon claim. They haven't read it. They haven't properly identified it. I don't care if it's Ankh. I don't care if it's any of them dudes. I don't care if it's Asar, Wujawu, any of them. And for the record, I've argued with Asar, I've argued with Wujawu, I've argued with Ankh, I've argued with Kofi, I've argued with Chavis, I've argued with Satep, Sutek, Ben, everybody. Garfield, I argue with Garfield. I don't discriminate who I argue with. I've argued with Danny, Rabon, everybody know that. He said, "Why you right?" No. I'm not wasting time. I'm not wasting time today, Garfield. Here's the thing. I'm live because I'm explaining to people why I'm ignoring the noise. And the reason that I'm ignoring the noise is because people aren't properly identifying claims, and they're projecting their feelings and emotions on me when you don't properly understand the claim. So how could I have a conversation with people who don't know how to identify claims? That's facts. And I want to get back to West and Central Africa. I do. I want to get back to West and Central Africa. This is just more important to me right now than all the noise and all the confusion. But this is about West and Central Africa because this is, in reference to what somebody's saying on Facebook about the Dogon. Like, we have to properly extract the claims of them, and then we got to deal with the claims until we extract the claims and everybody has an understanding, a collective understanding of what these claims are. then we could progress the conversation. So now let's hash out the pros and cons and let's get this situation cleared up. That's how you have a conversation with me. I ain't trying to argue with nobody because you don't even know my position on any of this. You don't know how I feel about Grill or Van Beek, who seems to be making the most noise, and nobody's focused on the Dogon. He said, I want to hear about Inyame's like. And man, I just really think that a lot of these conversations aren't fruitful to advance scholarship. When one person is trying to use proper research methodology and the other person is subjected to their opinions of and projections, and then they want to assume things and then ask 1,000 questions, especially when you're drunk. You drunk as hell and you want to talk about some things that you don't even properly understand. How about you put these things into proper context? You write them down, you understand those points. So when you extract those points and you deal with those points, then come have a conversation. When you got some goddamn sense. Yeah, there's always there's a response to Van Beek's work. There's a response to Grill's work. You know what I mean? Because that seems to be the primary issues here, these two people. And now people are trying to, weigh these two people about it, but all the while they're ignoring what the actual claims are of the Dogon. So for the record, I did a show on the Dogon, and in that, from an African perspective and what the Africans took 3 weeks to extract from the Dogon, it tells us if they knew or saw. In that, it tells us what the Dogon knew, what the Dogon saw, or what the Dogon didn't see. So if you still are running around here and saying that they saw Sirius B, or that they did this or they did that and all the other stuff, please go watch the Dogon build on the Mossy Warrior Clan YouTube channel. I ain't going that far, Double R. Why you hating on them like that? Garfield, everybody is subjected to exaggeration. That's not what I'm going to sit here and say in the specifics. But people haven't extracted the actual claims of the Dogon, specifically speaking. They haven't extracted the claims. And that's the problem here, is that you have one person that is willing to identify the claims, and then you have other people that want to ask you 1,000 questions about what they assume or what they project the Dogon did or did not do. That's not a conversation. That's an interrogation. I don't like being interrogated by nobody. No female, no male, no police, no DEAs, no nobody. I don't want it. Don't interrogate me. I'm gonna shut all the way down. I ain't gonna say nothing to you. Don't interrogate me. And then don't sit here and try to have a conversation with me when I just introduced you to something that you didn't even know. That's why I'm ignoring the noise, because it's not fruitful for us to advance information. So inside of this build, that's about an hour and 15 minutes long, because I'm gonna shut it down here in just a minute. In this build, there was critical information that would lead you to help you understand how to properly identify what is being claimed in this piece of work and what is the supportive evidence for such. This conversation that has confused the hell out of everybody has come down to one thing: identifying the claim. Period. Was it Europeans that brought the Dogon? No. Oh, y'all having a conversation. I ain't getting into that. But anyway, look, man, I appreciate everybody tuning in. I'm not going to talk people's ears off. I just basically wanted to make sense of why I'm ignoring the noise, and it works for me, and why I'm continuing to do the work, the fors and the against. I just ain't saying nothing to anybody because I don't need to have a conversation with people who don't even know how to properly identify a claim, who's still working out their pseudoisms on their live streams, who already admitted that they're not going to read, who already admitted that they're just going to shoot from the hip and pretty much just talk shit, and that they're supposed to be pointing us to experts, and we still haven't got the experts that have actually dealt with the claims of the Dogon properly. If you're using one person to identify something, like if, for example, if you're just using Van Beek as the basis of your argument in a conversation, you haven't done that yet. And if you're using Van Beek, then I suggest you go and find more supportive evidence that would support Van Beek's position to stand on that. Because if you don't go do that, that ain't proper research methodology, and you don't have enough supportive evidence, because your claim, your premise, your conclusion is based on the conclusion of someone who didn't themselves do the necessary work to get through A, B, C, and D and come to an honest conclusion. So there's a lot of back and forth of a conversation that hasn't been entirely hashed out. But to let them argue, we don't need them. Listen, this is my thing. Everybody's so fixated on Grill and Marcel and Van Beek, and nobody's fixated on what the Dogon claim and what other Africans have extracted from their visits in Mali during a time where they had a chance to investigate and get to know these people. And they openly admit that they couldn't find out anything earlier on. Judy crazy. And I don't need a whole bunch of views, man, to make sense to people who are smart enough to understand that it takes proper research methodology to actually come to an honest conclusion, and that you really need to know how to identify claims before you deal with a subject matter. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, how long have I been debunking claims made by pseudos online? I spent the whole damn pandemic and prior to the pandemic doing that. So I think I know how to properly identify a claim and then deal with the claim scholastically and provide you enough sources to substantiate the position based on the conclusion that I have reached. And on that note, man, make sure y'all like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend that we're always live and in the building, and that we out.